or assistance required, we can address in this call.
This is Tracy. I'll jump in.
Sure.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you.
So I'm going to talk about the problems I've had, because we were able to get into the user interface through the SlideSense AI, and that I think was fine. There was one error we're still getting where we can't download the data sets. Not really that big of a deal. I mean, we're able to choose a bot and choose a data set and produce the PowerPoint. And I think we have some questions and comments, but I'm actually going to switch to the Gramix piece because I am having a lot of trouble with that.
Sure, please.
So we really had a lot of trouble even getting connected and being able to use it. So we spent the majority of this last week really trying to figure out how we could even download this on our machine, because we're kind of restricted with what we can download on our own desktops, and I think we were finally able to get that resolved. At least I was. I think other people might still be trying to get connected. So now I'm connected and I can do some minor things, but I'm getting some errors, mostly having to do with what sounds like maybe some modules missing.
I see.
From the install.
Got you. Would you be able to share screens and show me an example, Trace?
Yep, I can do that.
Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I am able to do this and see this. Interesting.
Okay. So I actually tried to run this Gramix, init file and got this string index out of range. So I don't know if maybe that was part of the problem, that maybe something didn't get created when it should have for this. But I kind of was able to do, and I'll show you kind of where I started. So I really went to the Quick Start tutorial and was able to get through, I downloaded this, I created a folder, I can kind of do these things here. I can get these things to show up. But I think the problem, and I get this, I can get this to show up, I can get it to show up as a table. But I think the problem is when I get down to here is where I'm getting the error when I'm trying to do this piece here.
Got you.
And so the error is actually here.
Okay.
So it sounds like I'm missing
Got
this.
you.
Yeah, I'm missing some things in here somewhere.
Yes, this has happened to a few users. This particularly happens when installing Gramix, because Gramix also installs a few other dependencies and the ports may not have been opened up for those. So let me suggest two things. One, a way of fixing this, and second, a way of bypassing this. So to fix it, on the command prompt or whatever environment you use, you can run Gramix setup UI. I can guide you through the process. Would you like to open the Gramix environment, or is that something you'd be able to do from the system?
So I don't want to take up, the whole meeting. I want to let other people be able to talk about their whatever problems they've had. Or Nancy, I know that we wanted to talk a little bit about the AI. So, what was the command again? Gramix setup what?
Gramix space setup space UI. I'll put that in the chat window as well. Gramix setup.
Okay. Here's the thing: is that when I first installed this, I did not have administrative rights,
Ah,
and I noticed that. So I uninstalled. I got rid of Gramix, and I reinstalled using admin rights. And I do see now that I have some of the node modules, but I'm still missing the ones that are located in that UI folder.
right, got you.
And so, okay, so if I run this, you're thinking that that's going to resolve that?
It certainly will resolve the node SAS error. Okay, and the rest of them look like they're all related to the same one. So yes, all of the errors on this page will be resolved if this command works. If this fails, then there is a problem installing the node modules for some reason, and we certainly can talk about that. Uh, you don't, let's
Let
not
me
even,
ask you this.
sure.
Can I ask you this? There is nowhere way for us to do this. You don't have any kind of environment that we can do testing on without having to do this,
Oh, we do
kind
actually.
of piece.
We
Oh,
do.
you do.
Yeah. So, sorry.
Rather than installing on our own desktops.
Absolutely. So, if you're comfortable using some test data that you can put on an environment outside, what I'll do is share my screen and show you how you could test. Oh, sorry, I don't think I can share my screen while you're sharing. Would you be able to stop sharing your screen, please?
Oh, yes.
So, no, and firstly, thank you for trying and thank you for asking this. Both of these are very relevant. One way of doing this is to go to gramx.gramner.com. We have a work in progress IDE. Now, in gramx.gramner.com, first let me put this on the chat window so that you'll have it at least for reference right now. Zubin, I'll request that if you could please copy this and share that subsequently, that will be helpful.
Sure. Mhm.
So you would normally need to log in. If you visit, you will be asked to sign in with any Google account, and it could be absolutely any Google account. Once you sign in my case, I already have 4 projects created, but you can create a new project. So I'm going to just say SlideSense test. And this spins off a container with a Visual Studio Code environment. So you see this green against container. So that's what's created Gramix and it's installed it. And now you have an environment where you can test out all of the same things. I'll give you a quick demo of how you'd be able to test out SlideSense. So there are these sections on the left. One of them is a Visual Studio Code environment, and Gramix in it is already running here. So you could select you could pick the instructions from the guide here. Now, second thing I'd suggest is you could go through the entire guide, but in reality, the only portion of Gramix that you need for SlideSense for creating presentations is PPTX handle. So you could short circuit the whole thing and just follow this tutorial. So
Yeah, I think that though I did start to do that, but again, I had some problems. Yeah,
got
so
it.
I don't know that this was I was able to do this, and that's kind of why I went back to start with the quick start because I thought
Got
I
it.
was maybe missing something. And really, that I tried to run that bar chart race one,
Mhm.
and that really doesn't kind of
Work, is it?
It- yeah. I'll wait till it loads, but so it really talked about how to make the PowerPoint, not how to make your code, right?
Good point. And thank you for that. This is remnant of an old tutorial, but the rest of these are what are relevant. So I'll take this as a feedback for the team to knock this off because, and certainly I'm not as a first, and replace it with.
I don't know that. I don't know that the other ones. Can you go down to the scroll down? I think the cause of death I looked at too. Is that have the code in it? I didn't think that it did, but maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Okay. So in these, sorry, okay, I can see what the problem is. So the link here on top shows how explains the concept, and the link against the picture shows the code behind it.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
I understand why it's confusing now. So that's useful feedback.
Yeah, I didn't click on that. I only clicked on the link, and so yep, I was only seeing how to create the PowerPoint. So gotcha.
So let's
Okay.
actually take this as an example. So step 1 is create the source template. So I'm going to download the source template here. And on the IDE, you can just drag and drop the files. I think, no, upload a file. Thought it's possible.
I thought we couldn't use the IDE. I thought that the IDE wasn't working for this.
It's not, well, there are two parts to the IDE. The part where you can just drag and drop, configure and create stuff, which is the easy way, which for PowerPoint, for PPTX handler, it's not fully functional. So it's got some very basic functionality.
So we can't really use the IDE because we're really interested in the PowerPoint handler. So we really can't use it, correct?
You can't use it without knowing programming. But if you're comfortable writing Python, which you clearly are, and want to do that anyway, or write the YAML directly, the IDE still allows you to do that. So whatever you do locally, you can do on the IDE.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is...
Okay, so again, I don't know, I don't know if anyone else wants to speak up. I mean, is this the route where we want to go and look at this, or does anyone have anything else they want to bring up? What's the best use of this time? I don't know.
I think unless anybody has some specific questions or something about it, I think it's valuable to use the time to answer whatever questions we need to get you guys into it, so you can actually start playing with it. If we need to spend the time going through getting it set up for you or whatever, I'd say do that.
Yeah, this is Nancy. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I do have some concerns about it. Tracy Leilani and I, especially Tracy, has jumped through a lot of hoops to try to even get this on our machines. Had we known that we could start here, that would have been beneficial the last time that we met. I mean, we have security issues around downloading unapproved software. So, we've been saying all along, gosh, it would have been great if we just, like a lot of other companies who want you to trial something, just log into an environment and try it out. So it looks like this environment here may have just as many issues for us. I hear, just kind of like, oh, this is a problem, that's a problem. So personally, I think trying to make what we've started off with work would give us the best picture of whether or not, this tool is right for our needs, rather than, dumping that and trying to make this work when already just in this short demo, it seems to have some issues. So that's my 2 cents around this. As far as any other questions that we have, our questions are really around how can we test out the developer aspect of this, because we played with the bots, and our experience with the bots, and I'll just give the feedback, was that we get it. We get that, a developer is going to create this PowerPoint template, is going to sort of hook everything up, right? They're gonna program it, which is what we're trying to test here. And then when a user's in there, depending on what's been set up for them, they have a certain amount of flexibility. And it seems to us that if there's an exhibit, like a chart that you can create in PowerPoint, and the legend is coming out of PowerPoint, there's a lot of flexibility. And users can drop into the data and make data changes, and that pie chart or that bar chart is going to change. If you change a color, the legend will change, or you change the legend colors, the chart will change. That looks really, really cool. But we noticed, like, just if there's a bot that has a table that was created in PowerPoint, or like the mortality bot where you've created a cell, and then you can, go across and say, oh gosh, the columns, you allow the users, yes, that one there, you allow the users to limit the number of columns or the number of rows, the rank, right? That's all set up by the programmer.
Got you.
And we were like, well, gosh, what if they go in and they they don't like the colors that were set up. They want to change that. Or they want to change a range. And so we went in and we changed the color in a cell, and we're like, oh, that's all set up by the programmers. They can't do that, right? So that would be something, we'd have to be able to lock this tabular exhibit down so that they don't touch those things.
Got you.
That's what it seems like to us. So first off, I guess our question around that is that true? Or is there some sort of a workaround? And if it's true, how do you deal with it?
Got you. So let's take the shifting causes of death. And you're right that a significant portion of the functionality here, what can be changed, is set up by the programmer. So let's take this example. Now, if there is a change that needs to be made, that's not on this list. The only place that can be made is here. Now, the way we deal with this is what we choose to expose here is entirely in our control. At the moment, so one of our team members, I had a quick chat with him and we discussed what are some of the parameters that we might want to give control to the user to. And we arrived at this list of 6 items and added it to the component. If we want to add a dozen more, that's fairly straightforward. The way it would work is the programmer would add a component here, and just like, for example, let's take one of the parameters here, the start year. So just like he gets a start year from the parameter that's chosen by the user, they'd be able to get any of the other parameters. So it's possible to move this to the point where the user doesn't have to touch any of these. What the programmer would have to know beforehand, though, is what are all the things that they may want to change. And
Right. Ananda, I think I get that, but it's like if you were to go on to share the visualization and open up the PowerPoint, this was our concern.
Got you.
If we could go there. I think we kind of get that. I don't know, Tracy, Leilani, Jenny, do you play around with this? Tracy and Leilani, we played around with this. We know what we're saying here, but Jenny, do you have concerns over this piece of it? Like what a developer would have to set up to allow?
Yes, it does seem like we would have to create that flexibility.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear the last bit, Jennifer.
It does seem like we would have to pre-program that flexibility. It's not something. I think the goal was to have.
We're not hearing you, Jenny.
Your connection's not great, the audio. So let's just move on.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Sorry, it set it to my laptop audio options. That was my understanding as well, is that we would have to kind of think about that flexibility ahead of time and kind of pre-program it versus kind of doing it after the fact.
Got you. Fine. That is a gap.
So can you go back to the PowerPoint? Because I think this is really important, because this is the perception that I think that we have on this side, is that once it gets to those folks who would be consuming this, right, the users of this is where they could go in and have all this flexibility and say, oh my God, that magenta color there, I hate that magenta color. I just want to change that. And so, in my mind, if I know a little bit about developing, I'm like, I'm going to go change it in the legend, right? That should flow. That won't happen, right? I can go and I can click on that magenta legend box when it's full, and I can change that color and nothing happens. It just changes the color of that legend box, legend cell.
Right.
This is going to flow to all the magenta cells on that table, much less all the magenta cells on all the other slides in this animation is not true. So if an end user really wanted to do that, they'd have to go in and change that everywhere, every single slide, every single cell on the table. and every single box in the legend for these 10 or so slides. So that's where we'd have to really work with them and make them understand that, well, for a table like this, you don't have that kind of flexibility. You can't go in and those things. And I think those things were quite important, right? And beyond that too, not just color, it's the font, it's the range, right? Like, gosh, I want to actually change the range on that legend. I want to say, if I change this to, 50, 100, 150, 200, I can see someone making a mess out of their PowerPoint deck really quickly.
So what I am taking away is the kind of functionality we want is they should be able to change it in the PowerPoint. And well, I've made a bit of a mess here myself, but let's assume that it's not so bad of a mess and ignore some of the finesse on the design, but something like this. And they should, and when this happens, it happens directly on the output itself rather than the template. I get you. No, that is not something that SlideSense offers. And we honestly don't know how to do that in PowerPoint. What we had done instead was said, there is an output and there is an input. And when somebody says they want to change the font on the input or change the color of any of these elements or change, let's say they want a purple shade instead of whatever they have, change the legends accordingly on this slide. And they take the same thing and upload it here and reapply the same process. So now what we have, well, once it finishes uploading, we'll give that a few seconds. I'm not sure why that's taking anything longer than just a fraction of a second. But when this goes through, or I'll do this on our local environment. My network might be acting up. Oh, that's slightly faster. Yeah, so let's take this one and go through exactly the same process. I'm going to take the same data set. And you're right, the age groups haven't been designed to be configurable, but I can show you how that could be done. We'll come to that.
And but I think the thing is that is done by a developer.
Not
right, or are you saying that could be done by an end user?
That could be done by an end user. So the way the data set is defined at the moment is that there isn't a column for age group. Now, the end user could add a column for the age group, and we just create the template to say, pick it up from this column that says age group. So, and this is now applied across the entire. So let me just download the presentation, and that will give you a feel for the output. So in this case, the font is what we have in the template. And yeah, it's changed across all of the slides. Let's go.
Why is the legend not updated, or is it updated? Why is it got the blue?
Oh, because in the template, I had set it to blue. Meaning, like I said, I was making a mess of that. So there isn't so there isn't a correlation between this and this in the way that we had designed it.
Yeah.
And that's poor design. So if it said that I don't even want this color, or let's say we don't even want this legend to be created this way, and just delete the whole thing and put that into the code saying whatever is the color here, create the legend out of it, then that would work better.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
you're right in that this template therefore suffers from that problem. And you're also pointing out something that is very valid, which is that it's possible to, and in fact somewhat easy, to create a template that isn't internally consistent. It's possible here to have a different color for the box here and the legend here. And yeah, I guess we will, we certainly are going to take that as feedback and see what are the mechanisms we can put in place to prevent this kind of an inconsistency, to prevent even the designer to create this kind of an inconsistency. The consistently designed template would not have this.
Yeah. So thanks for confirming that, that what we saw was, indeed what we were seeing, and that you'll take it back and try to work on that. Because I do think this is something that could really screw our end users up, right?
Yeah.
We'd have to have some way to lock this down so they can't do that. But I think there's a lot of flexibility with the other types of charts that you can make, the ones that you can make in PowerPoint and tie up to a legend there and tie to the data. And if you change one thing, you see those changes flow. And remember last time when I asked you if you could make a pie chart, and you just did that quick one on the fly. And then you changed the data and you showed us that. And we explored how easy it was to change the colors of the chart and change change them in the chart, change them in the legend, and everything flows. So I think that's definitely a positive thing. Unfortunately, from my first, I don't want them to change colors a lot.
No.
But so I think the main thing is we need to figure out how to test the developer piece of it.
Got you.
So I know Tracy, Jenny, Leilani, how we want to move forward, and Anand and Zubin, how much time are you guys going to give us? What?
Time's not a
Well,
constraint,
and let
to
me
be
tell you
honest.
that I did.
Sorry, go on, please.
Sorry, I did run that Gramix setup UI, and I sent you the error message that I got. It's in the chat.
Oh, in the chat. Got you.
Yeah, Tracy, that would be what I would think would be the next steps, as long as we have time, is to allow us to fully get the development environment up and running so that we can actually start testing.
And we want to go down this route of continuing with our virtuals and getting this to work on them, not using this test environment. Is that correct? Is that what you guys want to do? Leigh, Tracy, Jenny?
I think it would be nice to be able to do that with
Yes.
our own data.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Do that to do it on their server, just to kind of get a feel. But now that we've gone this far, I think you're probably right, Nancy. I don't know that I'd want to back up. But we have to be able to get it to work. So.
Got you. Let's do this then. So from a time perspective, it's not a constraint, meaning this is useful feedback, because I'd love to see what are some of the challenges that we see in a restrictive environment so that we can repackage this and explore other ways. So this one alternative is a Docker install. So if you're able to install a Docker container, that's a possibility. But this particular one, I have never seen, or rather the only thing that strikes me is whether there is an issue installing node packages in general on that system. So does yarn or npm work fine for any other packages on your local system, Tracy?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that question. Does what work?
npm. So if you on a local node installation, if you've tried node install, I don't know, maybe D3.
No, we've not. Yeah, we've not done. I've not done that. I don't know, Jenny, if you know anything about that.
So the way
I'm not.
this works is after Gramix installs, it sets up a connection to Node.js, and specifically npmjs.com, and sets up requests to pull specific packages. That's how the UI gets set up. But looks like either that's banned or there is a certificate error.
It could very well be, like we said, I mean, we're up against, trying to install this through the firewall and everything else. So, I mean,
no worries. The good
it
part
could very well be.
Now, the good part is you've got what SlideSense needs. You've already installed that. We don't need the UI side. So SlideSense only creates PowerPoint stuff. You need the other stuff only if you want to create the web-based application. So on your command prompt, if you just type SlideSense, that's really the only command that you need. And if it gives you an error saying no rules found in file grammix.yaml, perfect. You've got a starting point. So could you try that locally? Just try running SlideSense and see if it gives you the same error. It works. Okay, perfect. So then let me suggest this small next step, which you can try right now. And if this works, then we are good. In the same folder that you're running, just create any presentation.
Hold it now because let's see. So it looks like it did complete. I didn't get, so hold on one second, let me come back because have to switch back and forth between. So you said I should get this no rules found. I didn't get that error message. I didn't get any error message when I ran SlideSense.
Okay, perfect. Do you have a grammix.yaml file in your local machine, in that folder where you're running it from?
Hold on one second. Actually, I'm sorry. I need to change my directory. Hold on. So do you want anything in that YAML file?
No, initially, if you just put in nothing, it'll give you this error. And then I'll ask you to just put in what I've typed in.
Okay. So I do have a YAML file, but it was through that tutorial that I was doing. So let me get rid of what's in that grammix file.
Just empty it.
And then I just need to change my directory. Okay, let me try and run it again now.
Sure.
Okay, I did get no rules found in the file.
Perfect. Yep. Now, in the same folder, do you have a presentation, or could you create any presentation and just put it in there?
I don't have a presentation, but I can. Yep.
You can just create an empty slide.
Okay.
Please save it as template.pptx, though the name really doesn't matter.
Okay. I can see PowerPoint on. Okay, it's in there.
Great. So now in the grammix.yaml, if you type source : template.pptx and nothing else, and run SlideSense.
Okay, hold on. Oh, so in the YAML itself?
Yeah, as I've got on my screen.
Okay, I'm sorry. Now tell me again what to type.
Source : space.
Yep.
Template .pptx or whatever your file is called.
Yep. Okay, that's it.
That's it. Just one line. And now run SlideSense. Now it should have, once you complete running it, created an output.pptx, which is exactly the same as your source template.
Yep, it opened.
Perfect. Now you've actually run SlideSense. The rest of it is following the instructions. So why don't we try a simple one? So in your template, in the template.pptx, could you take any one shape and go to select selection pane?
So you want me to add a shape
Yeah.
to
any shape.
Okay, hold on. I just want to get rid of this here. And then go to select selection pane.
Yeah. And select the shape and double click on the shape's name and rename it to title with a capital T.
Rename it to what?
Title with a capital T.
Title?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
That's right.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing
Sorry,
you. Yep. Okay.
title.
With a capital T. Yep, I got it. Yep.
It doesn't matter what the name is, but just makes it easier for us to. Now, we
Yep.
can save the same presentation.
Okay.
Let's add another rule. Now, what we're going to do is change that title. So,
So you want me to open the YAML, right?
Yes. In the YAML, you need to put in a section called rules. So rules : and then add a new line.
Okay.
And then tab in a couple of spaces and a hyphen.
You actually use tab? I thought you couldn't use tab.
Tab, space, it doesn't matter as long as you're using it consistently. So yeah, I prefer spaces.
Okay.
So 2 spaces, hyphen,
Oh,
space.
you do? Okay, I'm sorry. 2 spaces, hyphen,
Space.
space?
Now, let's see. What's the structure of the rules? Okay, fine. The shape was called title. So let's say title with a capital T, :
Yep.
and then enter.
Yep.
And this time put in 6 spaces so that it's indented under the title.
Yep.
And then say text : space.
Yep.
Hello world.
Do I need quotes or anything?
Actually, it's safer. So if you put an F quote and end it with a quote, it's much safer. But if you've got a space in there, it's probably fine. But yeah, no, let's be very conservative. So as I've typed it on my screen, wrap it with an F quote on the left and a quote on the right.
Okay, hold on. I'm not seeing your screen, so.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, F quote hello world.
Yeah.
And that's just because there's a space in that you need to do that.
It's actually a big no. It's because by default we are mapping data. So if you put in data, it doesn't treat it as a string, but rather as a variable, and says I don't know of any variable called data. So we say it's actually a string. And the reason why we use the F quote instead of just quote is because there's really no difference between data in quotes and data without the quotes. They're both the same.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's the F that really says it's something more than just a variable, and the space is not relevant.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then what?
And then run SlideSense. Now the output should have the text hello world.
Okay. I got a warning.
Mm-hmm.
Unknown command text on shape title.
Ah, okay. What shape was it?
A square.
Squares are perfectly
Rectangle.
fine. Unknown command text. Is there the text needs to be completely small letters? And
Oh,
let me copy paste this into the chat window in its entirety, and you could compare and see if there's.
I see. I capitalized. Sorry.
Got you. No worries.
So it's case sensitive.
It is.
I take it.
Yes.
Okay. And I actually have to drop here in 15 minutes. So let's see if I do this, and maybe then we can just see if anyone else has any questions.
Sure.
There. I mean, this is working now, and I guess I understand from the UI perspective, but we wouldn't be doing that anyway. So really, we just need to work on this PowerPoint piece.
Yes.
So Jenny, do you have any questions? Leilani?
No, you got farther than I did, so I'm kind of just behind you a little bit.
I still haven't.
Permission denied. I have a permission error. Permission denied out. Oh, you know
Yes.
what? Because I have it open.
Exactly.
Probably right.
Exactly.
Okay, let me try again. Hello world in the box. Okay.
Yay.
So I think this is working, and I understand what you're doing. So I guess I don't have any more questions at this point. I think we just need to get in there and try and work with this then.
Got you. No, thank you for getting it onto your system, and the UI bit luckily doesn't matter, but I'm conscious that at some point, if you want to try any of the features, we'll want to resolve that. As we go along.
Okay. I do think, I'm sorry to interrupt, I do think that we probably do need to install it with admin rights though. So I don't know if Leilani and Jenny, have you installed it already?
No, I am just getting into my virtual machine.
Okay. And Leilani, have you installed it yet?
Well, I got to that point where it says I need the admin, right? So I'm trying to get that.
Okay. So yeah. So when you open up Anaconda, you'll just
Tracy, we can't hear you anymore.
Yeah, Tracy, I lost
Pardon
you.
me?
No, we can.
I couldn't hear you.
Okay. I said that I reinstalled it by right-clicking Anaconda and running as administrator.
Okay.
So that seemed to get more stuff that I didn't get the first time I ran it. So I guess I'd suggest that you run it as administrator as well.
Okay.
Okay, well, I don't have any other questions right now. I appreciate you helping us get going, and we'll work on it some more.
Absolutely. And my guess is the next stage where you might need some inputs is some design strategies, or what are the ways in which we can assemble components. Simple mappings come in handy, but how does one create a specific kind of visual? Are there any best practices? That sort of thing. There may be some other installation glitches as well. So Zubin, I was wondering if maybe we could set aside another time and also a channel by which we could just communicate. So in case Tracy, Jennifer, Leilani, if you have any questions, you could just drop an email and we'll get back within a few hours.
Excellent.
Sounds good. Yeah.
And
Sure.
from a
So,
touch,
Right.
sorry.
Thank you very much.
Pleasures.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tracy. Zubin, in terms
Bye
of time for the next call, just wanted to quickly check if you want to plan one.
yeah, sure. And so, Anand, do you think a week from now works, or something end of this week?
End of this week, maybe, just in case. And if we
Okay.
need to move it, we can move it.
Okay. I'm going to set up same time Friday then. Is that tentatively fine with everyone?
I think that works for me.
That should
Okay.
work for me as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to set it up, and then, if there's need to, do another one, we can set it up for Monday or Tuesday.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Tracy. Have a good day.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.